Are we set to go? Okay. Welcome back, and we're going to do this asparagus pasta that's stuffed with an herb sausage. We've kind of used this thing multiple. I was going to use some morel mushrooms, but morels are more of a spring mushroom, and so I'm going to try and stay, I don't know, Italian. The basil sausage, coriander. I think it makes sense. So I'm going to get to a bowl. And like I said, I like to work with just basic white bowls, but for the sake of camera, I'm going to use these clear bowls so you can see. That's a cup. And this is probably a really great flour, this Bob's Red Mill. That's what I'm going to use here. I really love King Arthur. It's probably one of my favorite flours, but unfortunately they were out of it at the store. It seems like they're always out of it because I'm not the only one that knows how good it is. So basically, this is some red durum, high protein wheat flour, and that's what you need. You don't want that cheap 6% protein AP flour. And I've got 2 cups in there. And this is so simple. You're gonna, whoa, there went the OJ. It's so simple. You're really, I don't think you're gonna buy pasta again. Got an egg per cup of flour. Like I said, duck eggs really have a lot of protein. If you get your hands on some duck eggs, use those. Really, really nice. But these are fresh. That's probably what most people will be able to get their hands on unless they drive out here to the country. There's quite a few places out here that sell farm fresh eggs. Now, I like to use a wooden spoon. I'm not quite sure why. But unfortunately, I think I have my wooden spoon locked up underneath my pasta machine. And I don't want to take it apart. So let's see what else we got. Maybe I got a wooden spoon in here. Of course not. Oh well. The wooden spoon's kind of skinny. We use a fork. And to this, I want to add just a little bit of salt, a pinch per cup. So there's a couple pinches, 1 per cup. Olive oil, maybe 2 tablespoons per cup. If I can find a tablespoon. Okay, let's put this. And there's all kinds of olive oils out there. Just find an extra virgin one. And if you can, just a regular olive oil. And if you can't find that, just a nice canola oil. So 2 per cup. And Yamhill County is actually producing some olive oil. They found some like Croatian strain of olive tree that survives the winter here. It does quite well. So we've got the olive oil, we've got the pinch of salt. We're going to mix a little bit. And then the water we just kind of have to add until it gathers, because it just depends on the time of year this flour was milled as to its moisture content. And I don't have a meter or anything to tell me that. All I've got is my eyes. It's like mixing up a pie crust. You have your eyes to see the pea-sized granules. And like I say, basically I just want to see this gather up. And then I'm going to knead it a little bit. And a lot of people say you got to put it in the refrigerator and let it rest for like a half an hour. No, that's not true. I don't put mine in the refrigerator. I just let it sit out, and as hot as it is today, I'm not going to let it sit too much. I'm going to work it pretty good. I have a well out here, and the water's really good, but I also have a pressurized filter on that well out there, and a pressurized filter on on this thing. And so I want this to be really cold. So I'm going to get some ice, get it cold, let it cool down a bit. And that's, I'm going to add that water to this mixture to get it to pull together to make the pasta. And then I'm going to grind up some spinach, because on half of this it's going to be spinach pasta for the heads of the asparagus. And this is really cool. I think you're really going to like it. And we can also end up poaching the asparagus in that same liquid that's in that chicken in the pan. So basically this will be a one-pot meal, and we're going to capture all the flavors that are in there without giving them away. Don't want to give up flavor. Okay, so a little bit of water, and not too much. The stuff will start pulling together rather quickly. And once it does, we'll start kneading it. See, it's already getting kind of bigger clumps in it. It's getting clumpy. And if I get too much water, I can always add a little more flour. And I'd rather have this pasta be a little more malleable than super tough. And like I said, I'll show you how to roll it out with a pin like my grandmother did, in case you don't have a pasta machine. So you don't really have to have it. Simple is better, less to go wrong. And for a pin, I have the kind that has the handles and ball bearings, but this I really like. It's a tapered pin. Use it down in Mexico. Some of the French bakers use them. It can do a lot of different things. Make tortillas. It can roll out just about any kind of dough. Roll out pizza crust with it. And you can see how this is starting to really gather up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next phase. Put that in the dishwasher. I have one, but I really don't like it. It seems like it's extra work playing with a dishwasher. And then I'm going to incorporate that dough cutter or scraper into this. And I think you'll be surprised just how fast this is going to turn into pasta. In fact, my grandmother would put the flour on her counter, and she'd punch a hole in it, and she'd crack the eggs in it, the seasoning in it, and roll it out, and she did it all right there. She didn't use bowls, although she had them. She probably didn't want to wash them. She's quite smart. She kept things as simple as could be to get the job done, and she did a great job. Learned a lot from watching her. I think that's one of the reasons I was able to get on the U.S. team, is I learned some just old-time classical cooking that they teach in Europe. And her family being from Sweden, they pass that kind of expertise down to each other, because eating is very important to the Europeans. They spend a lot more time thinking about food. Like the Asians, they're eating breakfast and thinking what they're going to have for lunch, and they're eating lunch and thinking what they're going to eat for dinner. And I kind of do that. And I look around, I see what's trying to go south in my refrigerator, and that's what I build my menu around. If someone brings me a haunch of venison over, I might incorporate that in it. I might make some summer sausage out of it, some jerky out of it. I make a camping stew that's dehydrated, and I let my grandson try some. He took it out with him, and when he came back home, he said, "Grandpa, I think you've got a gold mine there in that stew." He said, "You should start making that commercially." So he said, "I haven't seen anything like that at the store you could buy." And you know, it had air-dried venison in it, air-dried carrot and potato. I took tomatoes and pulverized them. And then dried them out in my dehydrator, and then I ground them in my Cuisinart to make a powder. Put that in there, and some herbs, and blanched potatoes. And when I cooked that up at another outing, they thought I'd made it fresh. It just really rehydrates really nice. And I'm thinking about going into some, what do you call it, freeze drying. The equipment's kind of expensive, but I like the fact that you're not playing around with canning jars and the pressure cooker, and you don't need as much space to store it. Now this is coming together quite nicely, and so what I'm going to do is the heads of the asparagus won't be as big as the stalk, and I'm going to use spinach in this to make it that nice kind of chartreuse green, and then overlap them, run it through my pasta machine, or like I said, you could roll them out by hand, and then we'll start making this asparagus pasta with these wooden dowels. I think the Italians would call them, in the old days, not make them into asparagus, but they'd hand roll it so it was hollow, and it's called strozzo pretti. That means pretty straw. Up to that point, all they had was just cut noodles that weren't hollow, and so to create this new hollow noodle, man, all those monks went crazy. They were just like, wow, that's wild. Who would have dreamed? And so, you know, all they had to do was eat, and so they're bored out of their mind. And so to create this new shape was nice, and I think that's how a lot of the pastas the shapes got started, is boredom and trying to do something, a new interesting shape to keep people interested in eating, because pasta was like it in Italy. Polenta, I think at one point they had to outlaw polenta, they were eating so much of it. I love it too, it's very tasty. It's basically a cornmeal mush that has been cut with egg and cream and seasoned, and then poured into a pan, and then you bake it in the oven, and then cut it into shapes. You can fry it, you put cheese on it. It's really tasty. Here we got some baby spinach, and we got some of that Croatian kale, and I'm just going to add enough water to get that to pulverize. I don't believe in using artificial colors. There's just too many natural things you can do to make cooking quite fun. Here again, some nice filtered water. You live in the city and you got chlorinated water. I suggest you get some good water. There's a lot of them out there. They're not very expensive, but at least that way you know what you're working with. And here again, I'd use a Roboku or Cuisinart. You could use a beer mixer, an immersion blender, anything you got. You could even chop this up really fine with a knife and do the same thing with it. Add a little water. So all we're going to try and do is get that coloration into this pasta. Runs at about 900 watts, so I mean it just really does an awesome job, real quick. Doesn't take a lot of time. Now I'm going to run this through what's called a chinois, and for those of you who don't own a chinois, a tea-sieve, a little tea-sieve will work fine. So basically I want to take the water out of it. I don't have that much water, but I don't need all that water in my pasta. And in the old days, this chinois was made out of horsehair, just the finest of all the sieves. And I'll take the back of a ladle, small ladle, and I'll press that through to get the water out. So like I said, I'm really after the chlorophyll, and I don't want it affecting my pasta that much. And, you know, this could be used. That could be a really nice base to asparagus soup. I'm just going to put that on my cutting board. Oh, my sink is piling up. I need a dishwasher. Okay. Now, I still think that's a little liquidy, so what I'm going to do is do a thing called patting it. I've got some paper toweling. You can see it's still pulling moisture off. I do the same thing with my sliced tomatoes. Even though the San Marzanos don't have much liquid in it, I still like to take the liquid out when I make a sandwich. I like to take the seeds out because your body can't digest the seeds. And so that's basically what I'm left with right there. And it's not too liquidy. I'm going to kind of scrape it up so in case there's any moisture that's stuck to the board. Okay. Here we go. And I may use just a little bit more. I don't want it to be too tacky. And if it is, I'll just add a little flour. And you can do all kinds of neat things. You can put your chopped thyme in here, you can put your chopped basil in here. Yeah, and it's time to add a little flour. It'll help it not stick to the board. And this Bob's Red Mill is nice. Like I say, he does a nice job. I prefer King Arthur. But, you know, the cook makes the kitchen doesn't make the cook. You work with what you got, you can make it work. Use it up, wear it out, make it do or do without. I'm going to scrape this. That flour is really helping. A little bit more because it's just a little tackier than I want. And it's like pie crust, like I said, it's a feeling thing. You can feel it. It's dense, it's not tacky. This is sticking to my hands, and when I get it to the stage where it won't do that anymore, it's ready to be worked. And you can see that baby spinach and the kale is starting to dissipate pretty good in it. And when we cook it off, it'll dissipate more. Yeah, that's just nice now. Okay, I'm going to let that rest right there for just a minute. I'm going to flip this board so that I don't pick up any more grain on this stuff. Wipe my hands off. And the nice thing about pasta is it's kind of dry on your hands, and so when you rub them together, most of it comes off. I'm going to check this out. And in fact, I'm going to get another pan on so you can see how this works. As you can see, I have some pretty heavy-duty industrial strength pans. I like Spring, made in Switzerland. Wherever makes some nice ones. There's a lot of good brands out there. But get a good one, good thick bottom. I mean, this pan is going to outlast me and my kids, probably my grandkids. I'm going to get a little bit of water going to poach the asparagus in. And you're going to see just how simple this is. And I'll put a little of that chicken stock in there. But I think I should do this so you can see it actually working. Okay. So this is pretty good. Tyler, you want to get over and make sure that camera can pick up the sweep over here. Let's get some of this stuff off here. Okay, you're going to be able to